saying the words veganism is an alt-right pipeline is wild. Yeah, truth hurts, don't it? Doesn't feel too good to hear that veganism absolutely can be an alt-right pipeline. I got so many people in my comments who were like, I don't know any alt-right vegans. That's not true. Vegans are all on the left. And that's not true at all. I have talked extensively yesterday, more than I wanted to, about how any kind of food ideology that tries to limit what you put in your body, tries to moralize food and tell people that some foods are pure and clean and others are dirty and sinful, that's going to become an alt-right pipeline very, very quickly. Doesn't mean that everybody who engages in that practice is going to move to the alt-right, just like how there is a homeschooler to alt-right pipeline. I didn't fall down it, even though I'm a homeschooler. Just like there is a crunchy mom to alt-right pipeline, I didn't fall down it, even though I'm a crunchy mom. I understand the ways that attitudes, beliefs, ideologies in those spaces function as an alt-right pipeline, function to radicalize people. We have to be aware of that reality. But specifically here, I want to address this comment that I got a ton yesterday that was like, there are not any vegans on the right. Veganism is a purview of the far left. And that's that's simply not true. When people bring up this talking point, sorry, I'm pulling up the story here. When people bring up this talking point, the first person I point to is JP Sears. Do you remember him? Way back in the day, he was like a, funny ginger dude who did yoga and talked about emotional wellness. He was a pretty prominent wellness influencer who seemed fairly innocuous, right? He was really big on doing comedy sketches to reach people about his wellness beliefs, about veganism, about yoga, about clean eating, right eating. And he was funny, right? A lot of us thought he was funny early on, and there was nothing particularly offensive about what he had to say. And as time went on, he built a huge platform around his veganism, around his yoga, around his emotional mind-body connection, wellness, whatever. He started to out himself more and more. And I would see him say things that I was like, this doesn't sound right. That sounds a little bit racist. That thing he just said, that seemed like a transphobic dog whistle to me. And as more and more time went on, JP Sears just completely outed himself as like full on alt-right. And he's not unique. He's not the only one. I like to bring him up because so many crunchy moms that I'm friends with who are politically on the left, and myself included early on, were like, this guy's kind of funny. He's kind of innocuous. He's got to be on the left because he's a vegan and he's into yoga. And he talks about being like a sensitive male. Well, very quickly, he started to talk in a way that made it quite clear that he is real big into the patriarchy, real big into all of the right-wing talking points, and he always was on the far right. Now, maybe he's gotten pushed farther to the right because that's been a real good wellness grift for him, right? MAHA has been a fantastic grift for him, and so many other wellness influencers, but so many of them were already on the right. And they were using their veganism to help radicalize people because they're having that conversation, that talking point of like clean, pure eating, restricting what you eat, restricting your body size. Thinness is good. Restricting your food is good. All of those moral judgments around food and body size and body shape, that's an alt-right pipeline. And I mentioned in a previous video that I would talk about this piece from Vice back in 2017, why so many white supremacists are into veganism. You can be a vegan without being a white supremacist. But there is a reason that ideology appeals to people on the far right. The same reason that like the carnivore diet appeals to some people on the far right. It's about clean eating. It's about restricting food choices. So let me read a little bit from this piece from Vice. If there was any doubt that there are white nationalists among us, it vanished this summer when the racist fringe of the far right manifested in Charlottesville. Remember that when Donald Trump called those white supremacists very nice people? But even before that, as the movement known as the alt-right grew online and gained notoriety for its expressions of anti-Semitism and racism, as well as its vocal support for Donald Trump, journalists and academics have attempted to understand it. Some alt-right leaders have been repeatedly interviewed by major news outlets. Now it's just common, right? Major news outlets are all a mouthpiece of the regime. They are right-wing propaganda. The popularity of right-wing YouTubers has been dissected. We know how many of them were paid by Russia now, don't we? Ordinary alt-right adherents have been surveyed. Reddit comments have been sifted through for meaning. But many may not realize that, as strange as it sounds, numerous white nationalists are vegan. And it's not just an odd coincidence, but an outgrowth of one of the movement's bedrock beliefs. the concept of blood and soil. The slogan Blut und Boden in the original German was popularized by Walter Dari in 1930, although the concept behind the phrase can be traced back to the 19th century Völkisch movement. Dari was the German Minister of Agriculture from 1933 to 1942 and a staunch advocate for agricultural reform in Nazi Germany. Blood and soil became a mythical reimagining of German identity, emphasizing the importance of racial heritage, blood, as tied to the land, soil. White nationalists in Charlottesville chanted this phrase not only to assert that the U.S. is a place for white people, but that white people are racially and spiritually embedded in the soil of America. By romanticizing white people's inherent connection to the land and nature, blood and soil also underscores notions of racial purity and nobility. Dietary commitments then become a means to prove one's racial superiority. Adolf Hitler, whose vegetarianism is well known in popular culture, certainly connected diet with race. In Hitler's Table Talk 1941 to 44, a collection of transcribed monologues delivered by the Fuhrer in conversation with his inner circle, he advocates for vegetarianism as a universally natural and healthy choice, using humans' vegetarian ancestral instincts and young children's antipathy to meat as evidence for his argument. Savitri Devi developed these ideas further. Devi was a Greek national who became prominent in Ariosophistry, a set of occult traditions that mythologize European peoples as descended from the original Aryans. After World War II, she wrote books propagandizing Nazi esotericism and ethical vegetarianism. Using Hinduism as her prime example, she argued that selfish vegetarians abstain from meat for fear of retribution in the afterlife, whereas unselfish Aryan vegetarians demonstrate their superhuman qualities and racial superiority by caring for the welfare of all sentient creatures. While this may seem contradictory, how can one support animal rights but deny the rights of other people? There is a long history of animal welfare and environmentalism in white nationalist communities. The Nazi Party, for example, had a green wing that pushed for environmental reform, including organic farming and reforestation programs and protections for certain species of plants and animals. Along with Hitler, Heinrich Himmler was a vegetarian who opposed vivisection and cruelty toward animals. Far-right organic farming movements emerged in post-war Australia, connecting notions of race, nation, land, and nature. Who doggy? They exist in the US too, in the prepper homesteader movement. What do you think crunchy moms are? What do you think MAHA is? It's all this. Daniel, I want you to listen carefully to this next part here. For this niche dietary group, then, the notion of blood and soil lends itself to the idealized vision of Aryan ethical veganism as part of the white people's racial purity and heritage. Romanticized veganism can serve as an entry point to white nationalism or reinforces other white nationalist beliefs. These ideas persist in white nationalist circles today. Take Aryanism.net, for example. Among all the articles devoted to the history, philosophy, and politics of white nationalism, the site has a full page dedicated to veganism, littered with quotes from Hitler, Hess, Devi, Joseph Goebbels. The anonymous authors claim that veganism is a hallmark of an authentic National Socialist and a, quote, sign of genuine empathy and a level of nobility beyond presently popular norms, end quote. It's not enough to be vegan, however. Like Devi, the webpage is adamant that Aryans should be vegan for ethical reasons, not simply for health or vanity. Rejecting mainstream associations between veganism and pacifistic hippie caricatures, they propose that the true vegan archetype is the noble Aryan warrior. This, in turn, becomes a justification for retaliatory violence. Only those who have renounced the initiatory violence of meat eating can be trusted to retaliate appropriately against a world they perceive as degraded. Aryanism.net also argues that white people have a genetic predisposition for veganism, reimagining a prehistoric past where Aryans were farmers who ate grains and vegetables. The notion that veganism is somehow natural for white people has also been spread by white nationalist and YouTube celebrity Jamie Lewis Liardi. He began his YouTube career in 2012 with his channel Simply Vegan. By 2015, he had completely rebranded with That's My Blood and My Genetics. He has an anti-globalist, racial separatist stance. White nationalist veganism can sound somewhat absurd, but it also shows how complex and deeply rooted this ideology is and how it can appeal to a variety of different audiences. To combat these racist movements, we must understand them, including how they can incorporate beliefs we would usually associate with liberal or leftist politics. Hope that helps.